The night was quiet on the patio by the pool. The only sounds were the wind rustling through the leaves and crickets chirping. It was peaceful, but something was missing: Matthew's body. He was lying dead on the cold stone, stabbed multiple times. His girlfriend Melissa, the one he thought he'd spend his life with, was arrested that same day. Was she guilty? Or is this a story of injustice and self-defense gone wrong? People say you can never truly know someone. That's definitely true for Matthew Truxler, who fell head over heels for cosplay model and actress Melissa Turner in 2017. Matthew had no idea that the girl he thought was just into themed parties and role-playing could turn innocent fantasies into a real-life nightmare, and one of those nightmares was about to unfold right in front of him. This story takes us to the Riverview area, southeast of Tampa, Florida. It's a nice spot, right on the Alafia River and one of the oldest settlements in the state, with big houses, parks, lakes, and trails everywhere. Riverview is popular with families and couples. In December 2018, 26-year-old Melissa Turner and 25-year-old Matthew Truxler bought their first house on White Barn Way. Matthew even shared videos of it on his Facebook page. If social media was real life, you'd think this couple was living the dream. Happy as could be in paradise, but things weren't what they seemed. Let's start with Melissa, who Matthew met back then. When she was 18, Melissa was going through a rough patch. She wasn't the woman you see at the beginning of this story. Melissa struggled with depression and hated her body. But one day, she decided to change things. Melissa pulled herself together, got healthy, and lost 100 pounds. She was feeling better than ever before. It's clear that Melissa loved her new life and her new body, maybe even a little too much. She wanted the world to see it too. Melissa started posting photos of herself anonymously on social media under the name Turn Rose. One night at a party, she was talking to a girl who had a similar story. This other girl made money by streaming online and doing things for adults. She was a webcam model. The idea was to do live, erotic shows for an online audience who paid to watch. Think of it like a digital peep show. The next day, Melissa filmed her first video. 3 months later, she quit her 2 part-time jobs to become a full-time webcam model. Later, she said she'd originally planned it as a short gig to pay off debt, but the taste of easy money was addictive, hard to walk away from. 2 years passed, and Melissa was killing it as an online model. She didn't even think about quitting. She was actually pretty successful for her niche, especially with all the competition out there. It gave her a level of financial stability she hadn't had before. Then, things started slowing down. New models were stealing her viewers, and her income took a hit. Melissa decided to branch out into something else, making and selling her own adult videos. During her time as a webcam model, Melissa built up a pretty decent fan base. Now they were happily paying for homemade adult videos she posted on her social media. These videos often featured cosplay or costume play, where she'd dress up as different characters. Melissa's main theme was horror. All through October, she'd post horror-themed cosplay videos, and her fans loved it. To outsiders, it might have seemed innocent, but given what happened later, it took on a darker tone. One user on a forum even commented on Melissa's clips that showed her doing some pretty messed up stuff. She always had been into the gory stuff. By 2016, Melissa was making serious money, enough to open her own studio with her then business partner Cam. Cam saw huge potential in this whole thing, and together they created a platform where other webcam models could stream their content for a small fee. For a while, it seemed like they were unstoppable. That is, until Melissa posted that post. He'd pitched the idea, "Let's open a studio, we'll get rooms for webcam girls." She poured all her time and energy into that, focusing on other people. She felt she could have done so much more, been way further ahead than she was now. If only she'd focused all that time and effort on herself. But no, what is working in the studio taught her a lot about dealing with people. Once the studio was up, she did everything. Found the girls, edited their stuff, set up all their accounts. She did it all. And she was furious. Now Melissa had a failed business and a breakup. But within weeks, that all seemed trivial because she met another guy and fell head over heels. This one felt real, for sure. 23-year-old Matthew Truxler was born and raised in Massachusetts, where he got his degree from Westfield State University. Then he landed a job as a general manager at age 24. Matt's best friend said he was the most fun-loving, caring, hard-working guy, could cheer anyone up. But by 2015, Matthew moved to Tampa Bay, Florida, where his brother lived, and soon found work in a tech company. In 2017, he met 24-year-old Melissa Turner, fell head over heels for her. By the end of 2018, they were serious enough that they bought a house, a 4-bedroom, 2-story place on White Barnes Way in Riverview. They moved in with their cats and dogs. Not long after, Matthew proposed. He celebrated his 25th birthday, like January 11th, 2019, he wrote on his Facebook, "Quarter-century-old, mortgage paid off, puppy dog, 4 fluffy kids, and an amazing girlfriend. I'm a lucky dude. Also realized I'm getting older because instead of sleeping till noon, I woke up at 6:30 without an alarm." As for Melissa's social media accounts, all gone. Later, Matthew's brother described the relationship as toxic, accusing Melissa of isolating Matt from his family and manipulating him. A neighbor of Melissa's and Matthew's just described her as weird. Right after they moved into the house, they had this huge party. There was a girl who tried to leave, screaming and stuff. I ran to the window to see what was going on and saw her being dragged back inside by her hair. That was weird. Maybe it was part of a costume thing for Halloween or whatever, but no one will ever really know what went down in that house during 2019. A few months later, after they moved into their fancy new place, the local dispatcher got a call. It was around 8:45 a.m. on October 18, 2019. Melissa Turner had just found her boyfriend dead in the backyard. She had no idea what happened. She told them she tried giving him CPR, but he didn't respond. Detective Ryan Lagas from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department was one of the first officers on the scene. The lawn and house were decked out with vampires and other spooky Halloween decorations. Matthew's body lay in the backyard. A shaken Melissa, still covered in dried blood, told Lagas the same story she gave to emergency services. Looking for possible witnesses or houses with security cameras, Lagas noticed a surveillance camera on the front door of the house pointed at the area where the man's body was lying. The cops asked Melissa to come down to the station to answer some questions. That's when her story changed. Matthew had been drinking all day and woke up around 4 a.m. She said she was mad at him. They got into an argument, and he grabbed a knife. When she tried to take it from him, the blade sliced her hand. Things escalated, and Matthew scratched her neck, shoved her through a kitchen chair before starting to choke her. That's when she picked up the knife and stabbed him in the back. Melissa did have a cut on her hand, but it looked more like a small scratch or nick. But Matthew had a bunch of deep cuts all over his body, including one big, gaping wound on his right upper bicep, a ripped wound in his chest, and another wound on his right forearm. At 4:43 a.m., you hear some more sounds of slapping, and there's a man's voice, but it's hard to make out what he's saying. There are muffled arguments, then the woman screams, "No," followed by a panicked, "What did I do?" Matthew was wearing a smartwatch that tracked his heart rate. It showed he was dead about 4 hours before Melissa called 911. The prosecution argued that the couple had been in a really bad fight, and Melissa stabbed Matthew repeatedly on the patio by their pool. She didn't try to save him. Instead, she waited 4 hours, long enough to make sure he was gone for good. Police charged Melissa with second-degree murder, which in Florida means life in prison. The trial was delayed because of legal disputes. Weirdly, while Melissa was in jail, she bragged about the big wad of cash she made working as a webcam model. In the end, the jury listened to witness testimonies and detective reports, but the most convincing evidence came from that security camera footage from the neighbor's house. It captured the sound of that whole awful thing. The courtroom was tense, packed with spectators waiting for the judge's decision on Melissa Turner's fate. She was facing a second-degree murder charge, a conviction that could mean life in prison. She insisted she acted in self-defense, claiming Matthew was abusive and controlling. "He pushed me onto the countertop. I have bruises on my stomach from that. Then he turned around and put his hands around my neck," she told the court. Her lawyer was doubtful about the quality of the audio recording the prosecutors showed and insisted that evidence would show the jury his client wasn't guilty. A few of Matthew's family members were in the courtroom, but they didn't want to talk to the press. Melissa said in court, "My heart is broken. Losing him is like losing my whole family, my loved ones." She claimed Matthew was abusive and she'd been through a lot with his drinking and mental health issues. But the jury didn't believe her story or her self-defense claim. Melissa Turner was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. What led to this tragic end? What made Melissa stab her boyfriend multiple times, leaving him to bleed out on their patio? It's still a mystery. Matthew's mom expressed her pain and grief, saying, "The story Melissa made up has caused me just as much pain as his death." She added, "We both know that Matthew was the best person who ever happened to you." Melissa Turner's story is a tragic example of how abuse, manipulation, and psychological pressure can lead to irreversible consequences. Despite Melissa's claims of self-defense, the jury found her guilty of Matthew's murder. This case raises important questions about domestic violence, its recognition, and the impact on victims and their families.